welcome to my video. This is Julie from Spend Less Craft More. What you're watching now is my second process video ever, and this will be my first attempt at giving you a voiceover. So we'll see how I go. Hopefully I won't run out of things to say, but if you start suddenly hearing music, you'll know that's what's happened. So what I'm doing here is I'm starting with an inspiration that you'll see in a second. There it is, which is the mood board from Scrapbook Boutique. That is an online store here in Australia. They have a mood board every month to inspire you. It's current this month, March. I believe it's open to Australian and New Zealand residents. Now I thought what I would like to do to begin with is make a background just using my thin strips of paper. They're mostly branding strips, but you can see a couple of them are not. So right now I'm just going to start trimming down the couple that are a little bit too large, and off camera I did also just get a couple more strips out just to try and fill up the background a little bit more. I'm on a spending freeze at the moment. I've promised myself I will do 100 pages before I spend any more money. So this is just one of the, I guess, fun ways I've decided to have a go at using some of the things that are in my stash. So in a minute I'm just going to sort of tidy all these papers up a little bit more, even them out, even the spaces. I'll put a tiny little bit of adhesive at the edges of each piece. That's what I'm doing now. I'm going to sew them in a minute, so I don't want to have too much adhesive there to gunk up my sewing machine, but just enough to hold it in place while I do my sewing. Now this is a little bit unusual for me in the sense that usually my absolute first starting point of any page is my photo, and I'll sort of start with my colours working from there. I have got an idea of the photo that I think I'm probably going to use, and in fact that is the photo I end up using, but just for a bit of a change I decided I'd make the background first and see how I went from there. Now here I'm not going to show you me sewing every single strip down. You can see I'm having a little bit of a fight there with the leg of my tripod, trying to get it through the sewing machine. I have to bend the page up a little bit. Just a bit of trivia, I'm in a cam boot at the moment. I broke my foot at the start of the year. I broke my left foot, which is, I'm left-handed and left-footed, so that's usually my sewing foot. So I'm having to sew here with my right foot, which is fine. It works out fine, but it did feel a little bit weird, and it was a bit. So I don't know, probably see one or two more strips of sewing, I guess, before I cut the video. What I will do after that is I'll go away for a minute with the camera off, and I'll pick the photo, which I was thinking of, and I do end up using, which is a photo of a gingerbread house, and also a few other little bits and pieces, some more branding strips, and a few bits and pieces that I'll use as, oh no, that's right, I'm doing the tidying up the threads first. But yes, while I'm off camera in a little while again, I'll get a few bits of, I thought it was important with a bright coloured photo and such a busy bright background to have a bit of a matte, so I do use a white cardstock mat and another striped piece of paper as well. But anyway, it's pretty obvious what I'm doing here. I'm just using some washi tape just to hold all those threads down so that they're not going to get in the road of my page. And here we go with some more bits and pieces. So I did pull out some more strips. Now please don't judge me. These are the branding strips. Most of these are the branding strips that you get from some companies. The pattern isn't the whole way along, so they'll have a bit of writing and a bit of pattern, and then maybe the barcode or something. So I'm just trimming all those up a little bit so they don't have any of those little white bits still showing. I think I'm pretty much done now, and I'm going to trim that white piece down to make a mat, as I said, just to separate my photo from the busy background. I spend a little bit of time trying to work out whether I can have a black stripe on both sides, and I realised that I can't. I've just gone to my bigger trimmer because the little one wouldn't fit that striped piece of paper in. I don't think I've mentioned to you this, just out of interest, is sped up 2.5 times. So that's the speed I'm going there. It'd be nice to be able to go this fast in real life, wouldn't it? And you just have to watch me put adhesive on the back. I'd love one of those fancy tape runner things, but that's a bit out of my budget, so I'll stick to my $2 rolls of tape for the time being. That's just some foam. I bought a big, I think it was 100 pack of foam sheets last year, so I think I've pretty much got enough foam to mount every page probably for the rest of my life. So I try and remember to use that as much as I can. So I'd like to put a little bit of extra tape when I'm using the foam, just to make sure it's nice and secure. And now we get to put all that together. Now that journaling card that's gone away, it's come back a little bit bigger. I actually realised it had a bit trimmed off it, and I had another one that was a full size just off camera, so that's what I've swapped out there. I spend a little bit of time thinking that my photo will be on the left hand side of the page. That means that the actual gingerbread house is facing in towards the centre of the page, but you'll see in a minute I changed my mind. There's a little reindeer sitting in front of the gingerbread house, and I decide I want him to face into the centre of the page instead. So that's why you see me swap it over, and I'm checking that I'm not going to sort of line up with any of those strips. Now I'm going to just get some of my other little bits and pieces and start filling them in around the photo, just making sure it's nice and straight. Now again, please don't judge me. A couple of these strips, you'll see I trim them down a little bit. Most of it does end up in the bin, but I think a couple of the larger pieces do go back into my stash. The more I like a particular piece of paper, the smaller a piece I'm willing to keep, I guess. And because I do have a spot dedicated just to those strips, yeah, I guess I'm happy to keep them. They're not going to get totally lost in amongst all the bigger pieces. I'm kind of wishing by now that I'd inked my edges for a little bit more definition, but because I hadn't done it on the background pieces, I didn't want to do it on all the others. Probably if I were to do the same process again, perhaps I would ink all my edges. But anyway, I'm still happy with how it looks, so that's fine. So yeah, about the actual photo, this is just a gingerbread house kit that we bought and took. We alternate Christmases between our two families. So I was at my sister-in-law's this particular year, the Christmas before last, and she's got boys. So we thought she always enjoys doing sort of crafty things with my daughter. She doesn't get to do that very much with her sort of grown-up sons. So yeah, so we enjoyed making this house together, and we did all those fun touches like there's a little Santa sleigh there in the front with the Santa's sack, and at the top of the chimney there's a little red lolly to represent Santa's, well, that's his hat as he's going down the chimney. Here in Australia it's obviously summer at Christmas time. It doesn't snow, but hey, what's the point of a gingerbread house unless it's set in winter? Now what I'm doing here, obviously, again, because it's snow on the gingerbread house, I thought these white glitter thickers would go well and also be stand out well in front of my busy background. I use, when I'm not sure where my titles are going to go, I tend to use a ruler or a couple of rulers. This way I can sort of take them around the page to help me decide where I want to put them. I don't know whether I want them like that, one above the other, or as I ultimately do, right like that, in one straight line. So that's where they're going. And I'm very aware as I'm putting them down that that they don't feel like they're going to be very secure without some kind of extra adhering. I think about gluing them down with some adhesive, but then I figure there's already some thread underneath, so I may as well go over that, which I will in a minute, with some more sewing. And then the whole title there is Gingerbread Time. Okay, so now's when I'm getting out my sewing machine. Now, as I said to you before, I'm in a cam boot at the moment, and without thinking about it, this time I do use my left foot to sew. You obviously can't tell because of the angle, but in my head I'm going, why am I driving so fast and not wanting to be going as fast as that? And that's why. It's because I had the cam boot on. But anyway, it's all fine. Yeah. Here I've realised that my adhesive going the same direction as those strips just wasn't holding it down enough. So I've just gone back in with some vertical strips this time, and I'm gluing it back on, and it's a lot more secure this time around. I'm just going to, because there's only a couple of threads this time, I'm just doing a quick knot at each end rather than worrying about using the washi tape. So that's what I'm doing there. Now obviously you could cut all those threads off. I may well do it later, but they're certainly out of the road and they're safe. Here is one of my sources of buttons. So I'm going to go in and do a bit of a colour on colour kind of a thing. Once upon a time I always used to thread my buttons. I could not cope with seeing buttons on a page or anywhere really without the thread in them, but I am going to be a bit lazy this time and just glue them down. It's not impossible that one day I might go back through and thread all the buttons on my pages that haven't been threaded, but for the time being I'm taking the quick route, and that's fine. Okay, so now I'm just going to glue them all down. That's my Dimensional Magic, is the glue that I'm using. That's the one that I've got that I find works really well with the kind of bulkier bits and pieces like the buttons. And now, you can't see just yet, I'm off camera a little bit there, but I'm just going along and ruffling up, not all the edges, but quite a lot of the edges of the paper for a little bit more definition. I deliberately didn't do that at the beginning because I didn't know where my photo and bits and pieces were going to go, and I didn't want to have that extra dimension under the things that I was going to glue down. So that's why I've left that part till now. Now the only thing I think left that I'm going to do in a minute is I end up getting some sequins, which they're sort of sequin flowers, which I'm going to glue down. In the lighting on the video they look a little bit pinkish, and they do look a little bit pink in artificial light, but other than that they actually look pretty white and they look fine. So thanks again for staying with me and watching. Oh, I am also, here we go, I'm going to just stamp the date stamp. I think I actually did that off camera earlier, but I wasn't happy with how dark it is, so I'm just re-inking my Brilliance pad there. Check that I've got the date right, and I'm just going to stamp the date a couple more times, and other than those sequins, that's it. So thanks for watching, and I hope to catch you again soon on another video.